For years, police hoped this picture would help them find Kassi Trimmier. The little girl disappeared from her home in Christenberry Heights in 1992. Pictures didn't help find Kassi, but they did help identify her after her body was found in an attic near her home.
At the time he's alleged to have murdered a child, then 14-year-old John Kearney was on runaway status from DHS.
We think we have the clues we need to put the puzzle together.
Did you know why you were going to be going to court when they came to get you?
No.
He says he doesn't know Kassi, her mother Shelby Trimmier, and he never lived in Christenberry Heights.
We're glad that Mr. King's out and going on with his life.
No one, Kearney, his attorney, police, is saying what could have led him to kill a child, remembered by those who loved her at her doorstep today, when he was a child of 14.
Kassi Trimmier was more than a headline. She was a 3-year-old child whose disappearance shattered her family and stunned the Knoxville community. In 1992, she disappeared under circumstances that immediately raised alarm. It left her family desperate for answers and the community on edge. In this episode of Behind the Headline, we hear from the journalist who covered the search for this child, the arrest of a suspect, his eventual release, the discovery of Kassi's body 3 years later, and then a guilty plea. The story begins on July 29th, 1992, when word comes that little Kassi is missing. This is our first story that aired on WBIR from former 10 News reporter Patricia McGeever.
Let's just go ahead and run this wash.
Get ready to start us line. It's that major box. Yeah, I have it.
Come on down. All right, let's go.
Search teams numbering from between 8 to 10 people each combed Sharps Ridge looking for any sign that little Kassi Trimmier might have been in the area.
It's pretty heavy undergrowth, but everybody seems to be holding a pretty good line.
The child was reported missing around 7:30 last night by her mother. Throughout the night and throughout the day today, ground crews search for the little girl. A bloodhound named Shotgun aided in the ground search near the Inskip Recreation Center.
It did pick up a possible lead, but again, it lost it.
A flyover by Lifestar could add no leads either.
I feel like we've searched this area as well as it can be searched as far as the ridge and the immediate vicinity, the vacant apartments, things of that nature.
We have received some information that we feel is reliable on a follow-up. We're checking with a couple of different agencies, and we think we have the clues we need to put the puzzle together.
Joining me now are three of the many journalists who covered this story extensively. Joining me, former WBIR reporters Charles Denny, Cassandra McGee Stewart, and former News Sentinel reporter Maria Cornelius. Thank you for being here to talk about this story, which I know is profound when you think about it. And I really want to say thank you, Charles, for being here. Bless your heart. He just had surgery, and he is here to.
This is to take my mind off.
Okay, well, we hope we can be
for
part of the recovery effort here. But no, thank you all three. We appreciate it. You know, when you look back at that story, what comes back to you? What kind of feelings?
Breaks
because
your heart.
did, yeah.
It does. It really does. I mean, that was in the 90s, and, you know, I was thinking about how, you know, shocking this would have been in that time. We didn't have social media necessarily, and just to know that this child is, you know, nobody knows where she is, it was huge.
Yeah, and you know, you're a mom now.
Oh,
you were not a mom at that time, but I mean, when you start
Yes.
thinking of those terms, it's just hard to comprehend.
My daughter came about 4 years later, so I, you know, had a different appreciation, you know, once you have a child, but even still, it was still just shocking and very sad.
Let's talk about when you, as reporters, first heard about this. Maria, did you hear it on Scanner? How did this come to pass?
This was back in the day when newspapers had dedicated beats. I mean, you had government reporters, education reporters, crime reporters, police reporters, court reporters. I was the night police reporter, so I am glued to the scanners in the newsroom and also a portable one. And you can tell, and y'all know this, you can hear on the scanner when it sounds like a little bit more urgent situation. And it she went missing she was last seen at 5. The family and neighbors searched, and they couldn't find her. And the initial call to police came in at 7:24 p.m. So we're hearing this in the newsroom, and I'm like, yeah, I better go.
Yeah.
Let's go out there and see what's happening. So that was the initial indication that, okay, this could be something very wrong that happened to this little girl. Is this a run? She walked off?
Mm-hmm.
She's 3 years old.
Yeah.
It's going to be dark soon, even though it was, July, you're going to lose daylight. And there was concern about her well-being immediately.
Yeah, and I have to imagine much the same played out here at the station.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear it on Scanner 2 and then, no, we've got to get out there?
As best I recall, yes. And how it came about was that Dean Littleton,
photographer,
the guy that you and I worked with, and Cassandra too, Dean was just a kid. He was right out of UT, but he had great news instincts. I'd like to think we taught him that. But anyway, but he had
we'll claim it maybe.
So we sent Dean
not rightfully,
over
but we'll claim it.
So we sent Dean over to. I stayed behind, and we sent Dean over to Christenberry Heights. And Dean gets out of the car, and he sees the urgency of this search, the vibe, because all the time you'd hear kids are missing, and you'd find them 3 doors down at their friend's house. Their mama just didn't know where they were. But this was different. And I think some of it was the vulnerability of, this is a baby, 3-year-old. But an 8-year-old goes missing, I would say they could fend for themselves, but they could at least communicate, tell you who they are, maybe who their mama is, where they live.
Yeah.
3-year-old's just a baby, and my son was born about 2 years after this. But, Dean gets there, and I remember him radioing back, hey, I think there's something to this. So that's when I get in the car and drive over to the scene, and Dean was right. I get out of the car, and I'm seeing search dogs, and there's an urgency to this scene. Not chaos, but it was frenetic a little bit, and I'm like, okay, they must think something sinister has happened here.
So what was the circumstances leading up? Had she been outside by herself? Did we know what? Was she inside the home? Was she outside?
She was outside playing. It would have been, the last time she was seen alive was 5 p.m. And her mother was taking a nap inside. And this was, this at the time it was called Christenberry Heights. I know it's got a new name now. And there was grass and, sidewalks and grass. And she apparently was in her front yard area, not far from the house, playing. And then it didn't take long to realize she was missing and not. Neighbors had seen her. The last reports of seeing her were 5 p.m.
So the search continues. It stretches into days. What was the sense in the community? I mean, you're certainly feeling unsettled on the scene watching this play out. What was the sense in the community, the immediate community, but then the greater community? Do you recall?
Yeah, I just recall, being, I don't know if fearful is the word, you're concerned, there's this child missing. It happened, in what we call housing developments now, but they were called projects back then. And we were always sent to those sort of scenes and expecting, potentially bad situations. And so this took on an extra sense of, I guess fear. I'm searching for the word because it did involve a 3-year-old, as Chuck said, and just the fact that she's out here, we don't know where she is, and then wasn't it at some point information came out, that the mom had been asleep, so you're thinking, what was that like? Your child is out here playing and you're taking a nap. That doesn't sound too good. So it was just kind of a lot of feelings, a lot of concern, and broadening concern throughout the community about where is this child.
I think 10 years plus of TV news for me, I have said, and I've been with you for the Inskip Road shootout, the Zoom In. I think this was the one story that the community most cared about of everything I ever covered. And it was because the vulnerability of the victim, people desperately wanted a good outcome to this.
Yes.
And as time went on, you started thinking, okay, that someone took this child and something bad probably happened.
So at what point did they start talking about potential suspects? Or did they ever start questioning, okay, the mother or someone else? Do you recall when you started hearing about some possibilities of who may be connected to her disappearance, Maria?
Because I was the night police reporter, the daytime police reporters would take it over the next morning.
Yeah.
So my involvement was primarily that night of, and any follow-ups that would come up in the evening.
Yeah.
So the daytime reporters took it over, and I remember being there. That it was a Wednesday night.
Right.
It was hot. It's July.
Right.
And then police searched from like 7:30 to 9:30.
Right.
The young 14-year-old at the time, who was later accused, Mr. Kearney, actually assisted the officers, said he wanted to help locate her. He was in the cruiser with them. And
remember that name, John Clark Kearney.
And then they searched for 2 hours and get nowhere with this search of the neighborhood, search of the area. So the volunteer rescue squad comes, and they bring their capability, a grid map. For those who don't, y'all know the area, but for those who don't, it's a heavily wooded area and steep.
Yeah, big
behind.
hill. Yeah, big hill behind there.
So it's July. It's overgrown. So they get their grid search out because they're about to send dozens upon dozens of volunteers out into the woods, and we're losing daylight to look for this child. And that was the first time that I really thought, this. I don't like the chances for a good outcome here. She's 3 years old. She cannot have gotten that far away.
Right.
If she's in these woods, you'll find her. But when that's, I stayed on the scene until we were past deadline, and then the daytime people would take it over. And I'm like, if she hasn't been found this evening, I do not think this is going to be a good outcome. My thought was she's either been taken somewhere and killed, or she's been abducted and taken far away, because nothing was turning up. And then we all know eventually what happened. I know we'll get to that in a minute.
So Shelby Trimmier, the mother, was she present as they were searching? Was she?
Yeah,
was it?
I interviewed her that
Okay,
night.
so let's talk about that. You did have early access then to family.
Yeah, she made a plea. She went on TV and and I thought it was very sincere, very desperate, and I often wonder, Maria, one thing we know about criminals, and I later worked some in law enforcement too, is we know that criminals, after they commit their crime, pay attention to the media. They read the paper, they watch TV, they want to see what the police are saying about it. And I've often wondered, was that Kearney guy 10 feet away from me while I'm doing a live shot? I don't know. I don't remember him being there looking at what he looked like, because later his arrest, I was already out of news. But I often wonder, was he there? Like you said, he went along on a ride-along. I didn't know that. That was news to me.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting once we get to that portion of it. But I was not here. I was not at the station when this broke. I came shortly thereafter. But when I did come and learned about this, I know some names started emerging. I know there was some questions about the mother, her possible involvement. But there was another suspect who emerged within weeks of Kassi's disappearance, a young man by the name of Sean Orlando Kane. Here is our report from August of 1992 from then WBIR reporter Gene Patterson.
Police say Sean Orlando Kane had something to do with the disappearance of 3-year-old Kassi Trimmier. He has reportedly talked to police, but authorities are remaining extremely tight-lipped.
We're continuing to work with the leads we have to try and develop further information on Kassi's whereabouts.
Little Kassi disappeared 3 days ago from the Christenberry Heights housing project. An extensive search turned up nothing. But from the beginning of the investigation, authorities were looking for a young black male. It's believed Kane is that man, but police are not confirming even that. They are saying that there are now several suspects in the kidnapping, and what they know will remain secret until Kassi is returned home.
We don't want the people that are involved in this case to know what we know. We want to be able to catch them. We want to be able to get the little girl back.
So at this point, they have a suspect in custody. But in the midst of this, and in the lead up to this, we did talk about that the mom, Shelby, her name was at least out there as a potential suspect. And there, Cassandra, you were talking about this just a moment ago.
Yeah.
That there was some controversy surrounding the matter.
And I may have my timeline a little backwards.
That's okay. This has been a long time ago.
Yeah, but I do remember that a person, a third party, decided to raise funds for Kassi's burial, and it eventually came out that the person went to look at the bank account for these funds, and it was negative. And she didn't understand how that could be because she and Shelby Trimmier were the only people that had access to the account. And so that became a story in itself, that the mom had confiscated funds that were supposed to be used for Kassi's burial. And so I think from the beginning, in cases like this, I'm not law enforcement, but you have to consider everybody within the sphere of, the missing person's life. And so I feel like at some point they probably considered the mom, but that was ruled out.
And there was some information that mom may have had some drug issues as well. What was your experience, talking to her and experiencing her that night? I know you said the plea was very passionate. What was did you interact with her that night, Maria?
Yes, we were all out there for hours on that scene, and I agree with exactly what Chuck said. She sounded distraught, legitimately concerned and distraught, and it was a relief in a way to know she had no involvement, because obviously you look at parents when anything happens to a child. As we said in the beginning, it's one of those cases that when you contacted me to be on it, I'm like, yeah, I can talk about that case. It's one of those ones that stays with you.
Yeah.
It was, and you're right about the community. I mean, the posters up for her, the donations.
So that's, I mean, they had posters
everywhere. 22,000 was quickly raised for reward money. I think it resonates because she's so little, so young. She's wearing a little peace sign, T-shirt, and
angelic looking.
And the circumstances of what could have happened. I think everybody was. It resonated with a lot of people, what has happened to this poor little girl.
Yeah. And that the search continued up to the point that they arrest Sean Orlando Kane. But this is something I don't think people expected. First off, though, before we go down that path, you actually have one of the...
I've kept that all these years.
I don't know if we can get a shot of this. You know what? We maybe can. We'll do. You know what we'll do? We'll show this. We'll do a tight shot of it. But no, it's one of the missing child reports, age 3.5.
These were all over town, and I remember I just kept
beyond the community.
And they list Shelby call Shelby at this number.
Yeah.
I mean, and to the point you made, this was well before social media,
right?
And Amber Alerts, and those opportunities to get the message out quickly. Getting back to Sean Orlando Kane, he's arrested. Don't know all the circumstances, but they felt like this is a person who may have had a hand in this.
I don't know if he had a connection to Shelby or not. Do you remember, Maria?
I do not.
I don't.
He said he didn't know her, but ended up being arrested. But this is what happens. In short order, he is released from jail, and this is our report from former reporter Patricia McKeever. Take a look.
Sean Kane walked out of the Knox County Jail this morning a little surprised, very relieved, and anxious to go home. He was accompanied by public defenders Mark Stevens and Aubrey Davis. The move this morning by the district attorney's office took even Kane's lawyers by surprise.
We have maintained since the time of Sean's arrest that he was not the individual who was involved in the offense, and General Nichols called me in this morning and said that he was going to pursue another avenue and did not want Mr. Cain to sit in jail while he pursued another investigative lead.
We felt that to go forward and seek indictment from the grand jury at this time would not aid our ongoing investigation.
Nichols says the case is complicated and they want to do things properly. He says the DA's office and the investigators working the case agreed with today's motion. Cain himself was a little apprehensive when jailers wanted to take him to court.
Did you know why you were going to be going to court when they came to get you?
No.
And what did you say then?
I wasn't going.
That you weren't going to go to court?
Yeah.
But his attitude quickly changed when he found out he was being released.
I was happy.
Cain says he can't remember how many times police questioned him or even what they talked about. He says he doesn't know Kassi, her mother Shelby Trimmier, and he never lived in Christenberry Heights. And he only found out his friends were being questioned in the case by watching the news. Now, Cain wants to go home.
As the case stands right now, I respect the general for his decision and what he's done, and we're glad that Mr. Cain's out and going on with his life.
Tricia McGeever, Action 10 News.
I have so many questions concerning how that played out that unfortunately we don't have answers right now, these many years later, as to how that happened.
Right. So it may have been one of the times in my life where I literally sort of questioned law enforcement. How could they come to that conclusion, and were they rushing to judgment? You know, and here's this gentleman who has been accused of something that they really don't have evidence. And I guess, you know, as an African American, that sort of resonated with me because, you know, that can be an issue in our community. So I do remember that. But then that left the question, then if it's not him, then who?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, this case is far from solved. But let's talk about your interactions with law enforcement during the story specifically, but generally in that time frame in the early 90s, as we were looking at that story. I mean, we got a lot of access to people and to officials. What were your relationships like with law enforcement when it came to stories?
They were excellent because especially since that was my one assignment. I didn't have, y'all had to respond to anything.
Right.
I was a police reporter. They saw me every night looking at jail records, police records,
And
sheriff's records.
We envied you for that.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when you have, this is your one specified job.
Yeah.
I mean, the detectives' offices were open. You could go up to the top of the safety building or back into the sheriff's department and walk in the detective's room and talk to them. It was a relationship that would develop of respect for what they do and their respect for what we do, for the most part. Were there some people that didn't like media? Of course.
Yeah.
But for the most part, all of my relationships, they respected what we did and knew we were trying to do a job, and all they asked is for accuracy and give us a chance to talk.
Was that your experiences? Because there is a difference when you've got a camera shining in someone's face.
Right.
Did you find that there was that give and take from your perspective as broadcast journalists?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah,
It was a different
definitely.
era. And like Maria said, you could go in, talk to them. You might ask a secretary, hey, is so-and-so here? Oh, yeah, he's going to, you know. But yeah, because many times, and again, I got the perspective later of working in media relations for the Knox County Sheriff's Department, but many times the police needed the media, you know, and they needed each other. The media needed the police, obviously, for information, but the police needed the media to, you know, if we're looking for someone and, okay, do we want to identify this person we're looking for? Because if we put him on TV or put him in the paper, you know, someone's liable to say, okay, I'll take that reward. Yeah, he's down the street here. So that's, you know, so that maybe is not... Maybe because of the internet and social media today, that's changed the playing field here. But yeah, definitely
it was very much
we
an
just talked
open.
to the police.
It was an open dialogue. They need us. We need them. And I think both media and law enforcement saw it as a beneficial relationship that each could take advantage of, you know, in the way that they needed. So it. You know, you might have your occasional person at the door trying to stop you, but typically you got the information you needed.
Absolutely. And as far as this story goes, there's a long span from the time she disappears in July of 1992 until 1995. How, if you can recall, I mean, did you do updates on where the case stands, and how do you navigate those types of stories? Because that's, this is still an open case. This is a story, and as a reporter, your instinct is to want to get to the end of it, but we don't see an end. So how do you continue telling the story when there's not much to tell, but you need to?
Yeah, I know we did updates at certain times.
I specifically, about 6 months later, during the Christmas season, I don't know how we got hold of him, but I interviewed the father. I want to say his name was Steve Trimmier. But I interviewed the father, and he was just shell-shocked, and kind of the gist of the story was, wouldn't it be a Christmas miracle if we could find Kassi, and but that's kind of what we did, and just, you could just see this guy is devastated.
No doubt.
And there was some feeling like I have failed my child, and things like that. It was, just story after story like that, that was just heartbreaking. And again, the people just, my wife Jennifer, to this day, she didn't know me back then, but she remembers the Kassi Trimmier story. I think I was watching the night she said, well, you saw me doing that live shot.
Yeah. Well, as mentioned, this stretches 3 years. And till finally there is a break in the case. And with that, we want to turn to our former reporter, Al Clinch, who brought us the story of that break.
John Clark Kearney showed no outward emotion as he walked the halls of the Juvenile Detention Center. It was just hours after police say he confessed to killing Kassi Trimmier. The 3-year-old child's disappearance in 1992 sparked a massive search. Thursday, the remains of what is believed to be Kassi's body were found by contractors in an attic of the very building she called home. Police say they're still checking their notes to determine if that area was ever searched. Their lone suspect is a troubled teenager taken from his home into DHS custody in 1989 because of neglect. A probation officer says Kearney's behavior was unruly, and he frequently ran away from group homes. In fact, at the time he's alleged to have murdered a child, then 14-year-old John Kearney was on runaway status from DHS and living with his mother in Christenberry Heights. There's criminal activity on Kearney's record: carrying a pistol with intent to go armed, resisting arrest, being beyond control of the DYD. But that conviction came 4 months ago, when he was 17. No one, Kearney, his attorney, police, is saying what could have led him to kill a child, remembered by those who loved her at her doorstep today, when he was a child of 14. But everything points to John Kearney being tried for murder as an adult.
There's just not much more that the juvenile system could offer him, and in fact, the longest we could hold jurisdiction would be to age 19.
As we said just a few minutes ago, remember that name, John Clark Kearney. And Maria, let's revisit when we first heard about this gentleman the night of her disappearance.
He was there because he lived periodically with his mother. And she lived I think he lived 3 doors away from the Trimmier's house or residence. And he was in and out of the system. He was classified as runaway status. I mean, I will point out that whatever happened to this young man was probably brutal and tragic to lead up to this. Does that in any way, I mean, what was done to that young little girl is horrific. There are plenty of people who live in traumatic, tragic circumstances and do not do this to people. But part of me also, as a human being, says I wonder how bad his life was leading up to this moment. And he was there. As a reporter, I did not connect with who he was. I later learned he volunteered to try to help find her. They were, because the the complex itself, there's multiple buildings, so they were in cruisers driving along the different streets, looking to see, driving nearby, because he did know her, as we came to find out, and had interacted with her before.
So how did you guys hear her body has been discovered? Do you remember?
I just remember being shocked. I don't know what, the
circumstances.
Yeah, the circumstances, but just being shocked, like, what? What are you talking about?
For 3 years.
For 3 years she's been there.
And she was found in the attic of this apartment, if you will. And we talked about the search. They did an extensive search, but you have to question how thorough of a search, because the understanding is they did search the attic.
Yeah.
And not only was she found in the attic, it was the one above his apartment. And if there was ever a case where I'm sure officers on the scene or anybody would do a what if, it would have been that circumstance. My understanding is that, these were small attic spaces. And they would have opened them and looked around, but did not see anything. And the other part of me understands the flip side of that. You assume the child has wandered off.
Yeah.
So the focus on finding her was immediately trying to find her. It's getting dark.
Right.
It's very, very hot.
Yes.
She could be dehydrated.
Yeah.
And the case study that was done about this case, it became a learning situation, not just with the Kassi Trimmier case, but with abductions or disappearance of children across the country, revealed that, because they would have at this time gotten complete access to the records of the police, that she was killed sometime between 5 and 5:30 p.m.
That day, the day she went missing,
she was beaten badly, beaten very severely. So no delay in the search would have led to her death. I want to make that clear. And she was wrapped up in 2 large trash bags and tucked away, very, very well hidden in these attics, like where you would not, if you were to go up and look around, you probably would not have seen anything. And then, of course, it was the renovation, almost 3 years to the day. It was July 27th, 1995. Renovation of those apartments is when the work crew found the remains.
So lessons learned, to your point, from this case and other cases that hopefully assisted law enforcement going forward. Do you all remember kind of the take in the community, how they responded when the word finally came out? Little Kassi has been found, unfortunately.
Found, but passed. Yeah. Very sad, and not the outcome that you wanted. Just, maybe a absolution of some of the sadness, maybe, because there's an end to the story, although it's not what you wanted to hear.
There is an answer.
Yes,
we have found her, but it's not how. And you all had kept that relationship, if you will, with Shelby. Cassandra, you spoke with her shortly after her body was found. Do you recall that conversation?
Just vaguely, but I think her sadness probably reflected that of the entire community, and that's probably when the issue came up about the fraudulent situation with her burial and that sort of thing. So it was just sadness all around.
All 3 of you have been you were in journalism a very, very long time, and Charles, you made this point that this is one of those that sticks.
It was all Knoxville talked about for months. And then I think, when the body was discovered, there was just the shock of, well, she was there all along.
Yeah.
She was right there.
Yeah.
But like Maria pointed out, Carney went to, almost like he knew what he was doing as a 14-year-old boy, and hit her really well. And if not for these maintenance crews, who knows how long she might have been there. But
maybe when they eventually tore it down and rebuilt as a new community, it may have been.
He might have gotten away with it. I mean, it was at some point, maybe within a few days after her disappearance, it went from, okay, everybody's bracing for the news you don't want to hear, and it took 3 years to get that news. It's just, right now we're looking for a body. And it's just, it was just really a sad crime.
Yeah. And he did serve time. Mm-hmm. And I did a search with the Tennessee Department of Correction to see if he is still being held. He did not. His name did not come up, so I guess we can assume.
He committed as a juvenile.
Right.
I think it was a 25-year sentence. So that would have put him eligible to be released in 2018, if I'm doing the math correctly.
So that would make sense.
And I hope he got the help he needed. And because what happened, I mean, the part that really got to me, because as you do this job, sometimes the details. There are places I still drive by and I see what I saw in the 1990s. I mean, some of the worst car accidents, some of the most tragic events.
Right.
We are talking to people at the worst moment of their life.
Yes.
And I remember when I heard that the body, the remains showed indications of a severe beating. I mean, that kind of broke me at that point.
Yeah, that was bad.
Because I just like. And you brought up a good point. Where does the suspect immediately go to? A young black man. Whatever their reasons were for trying to tie him to this, there clearly were no ties.
Yes.
Part of me wants to really, I hope, and the outpouring was tremendous, and I think it's because of the young girl. I hope it's not just because it was a young white girl. I want to say I hope that outpouring in Knoxville would have been the same had that been a young black girl.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that would be the case.
Yeah, it's definitely a topic for national consideration, and these things happen, and you want to hope for the best and most fair outcome. But you're right, it's worth discussing.
One thing I have, as I've journeyed through this series, looking at old stories, and they may have been decades ago, much like this, but the feelings come back to me of what I felt then. Now, decades later, those feelings are still there. They reemerge when you go back and you.
Yeah, Maria said something that sticks with me too, is you go by these places.
Yes.
Like when I'm on the interstate and I drive by the woods, Cahaba Lane, I
Zoom
think that's Cahaba Lane. And
that
when
was
I'm
an
on
episode.
640 and I drive by what used to be called Christenberry Heights, I think that's where Kassi Trimmier was. And it does. It doesn't leave you. And I can imagine for the police officers and detectives how this stuff stays with them.
Yeah.
I want us to end by talking about the impact of local journalism. What do you see as the impact when it comes to stories like this that some stories begin and end in a day, others take years? But why is it so important that local journalists are covering these stories? And I know that's kind of a broad question, but to me, I'm passionate about the mission of local journalism, of informing our communities about the good, the bad, and the in-between. What do you see as the importance of local journalism in a community?
Well, to me, there is no other way. Journalists are shedding light on issues that may not otherwise see the light. It's important that there be checks and balances. People who have the time and inclination to dig into subjects that are important to the entire community, it's very impactful. And I know things have changed over the years, but the baseline journalistic effort is still there, and it's the purpose is still valid.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely vital, and I am concerned about the number of newspapers that are going under. I mean, local TV and local, and I, being in the media all of us for so long. You hear the, oh, the media does this or that. I always encourage people, look at your local media.
100%.
Look at the not the talk shows and the screaming and the ones
That's infotainment.
Yes,
that's what I call it.
Where the whole goal is clicks and advertising revenue. Look at your local reporters. They are out there trying their best to get the local news and deliver it to you in the best way they can, the most accurate way they can. I am very concerned as someone who's been in this industry for so long and had left it. I left the News Sentinel in 2004 or 2002. Excuse me, 2002. After 14 years, I was police reporter and night managing editor, and I had a doctor tell me I was having tremendous stomach trouble, and he said, "You have the stomach of my 80-year-old cancer patients." He said, "You can find a new job, or you can die before you're 50.
Yeah.
You
That's
pick.
what it takes out of you because you're so dedicated.
Yes.
And you internalize. You internalize. And you've had the vantage point of being a journalist, but also being on the other side as public information for law enforcement. That is a whole other different perspective there.
It is. You see it, like you say, from a different angle. But whether you're a police officer or a reporter or a whatever, we're all part of a community, and we want what's best we want our community to be the best that it can be, and we want it to be safe, and we want little girls not to be abducted playing in their front yard and brutally murdered. And it's just, you don't want to sugarcoat how life is in a city. On the other hand, you don't want to just paint a picture of it's a horrible place all the time. There's NBC News every night does. Well, there's good news at the end.
Yeah,
right?
We need the
last
good
night
news.
it was the fireman who saved a couple of dogs.
I
And
saw
I'm like,
that one.
I'm watching
That
that
was
going. Yeah, the first 27 minutes of this newscast I watched, I really did need to hear about those two dogs and this fireman.
Yeah,
and I think it comes down to we're not indifferent to these stories that we cover.
There's an investment.
Personal investment. And you just want the best. But it's important, like you guys said, it's important for people to be informed. People have a right to know that this is going on, and that's what journalists do, is they tell that.
Absolutely. It's about information that you can then take and make the best decisions for your life. We're going to leave it at that, but Charles,
thank
Maria,
you, Robin.
Cassandra, thank you for being here, sharing your memories, sharing your thoughts
Thank
about
you for all that
this.
you do.
Well, thank you. It is something we're all passionate about. So thank you very much. You can watch past episodes of Behind the Headline right now on Apple, Spotify, and WBIR+. And we thank you so much for being with us. Please stay tuned for our next episode of Behind the Headline.